Before we get going to this RPG notes video, I want to recommend and direct all of you to drivethrurpg.com. Get your copies of Within the Ring of Fire, the finest, deepest, immersive fantasy game you will find. And it is dark, and it is a game that will stimulate your mind and get your players role-playing in a way like none other. Trust your main man, and if you like the videos you see here, they are but the first sliver and serving of the wisdom your main man possesses in the RPG arena. Get the books Within the Ring of Fire, written every word by your main man, and turned over to your mind to unleash within you a maelstrom of RPG magic, the likes of which your group has never seen. The first 4 books are out. You can get them in hardback, and softback, and in PDF on DriveThruRPG. Get those books now. Join Raw Immersive Games on Facebook and enjoy the conversation about the deepest, darkest, the depths of immersion, the quintessential aspect of RPGs. Join the RPG revolution and set fire to your players' souls. Now, in this video, we're going to be talking about population and population control. Now, if you've ever looked at the Dungeons & Dragons Monster Manual 1 through 87, you might get the idea that, wow, there's a lot of things in this world, particularly when you try to populate out an area with human beings, the same way you would in looking at some sort of medieval setting. You absolutely can't do that. Remember, giants take dumps and eat things and breathe. So you need to take all that into account. There should be a very small percentage, comparatively, in most areas, of humans, elves, dwarves, whatever your playable species are. Ogres, orcs, Mihangi, Freying. That's right, baby. We're talking about some Kvega Thale on you, and if you don't know, you better get to know. But when you're putting these species together for your game, you have to look at these demographics. And so when I wrote Kvega Thale and I wrote Within the Ring of Fire, I paid a very close attention to. I said, okay, in these areas, particularly, you're going to have X, Y, and Z sort of creatures living there. Everything lives somewhere, and I really thought that through. And a lot of, I don't think you could. I'm going to say you can't find any, say, Dungeons and Dragons setting, Palladium Fantasy. None of these games seem to in any way take that into account. They're just like, and here's some more new monsters that live in Forgotten Realms that were clearly not accounted for. And here's some more, and here's 4th edition more, and here's 5th edition more. Extra things you've never seen. Oh yeah, sure, everything is there. Why not? And it just gets down to a point where you just can't have that. I mean, how many people are there, like 17? Are there 17 people? Are there 13 elves? Are there 9.7 dwarves? Are there 2.5 gnomes? What's going on here? You understand what I'm saying? It needs to make sense. You need to craft that ecology. If it's uncrafted, it will show. If it's crafted, it will show. Hard work pays off in the realm of suspended disbelief, in the world of imagination. Work is a fuel of that fiber, most ethereal. Make sure you're thinking that over. Well, we have a population of 7,000 giants over there in that part of the kingdom. No, it's going to create problems. You know, you really have to think that things over. You can't just be, oh, there's where monsters live. And Lord knows, you just encountered 75 different kinds of monsters. It's like, well, wait a minute. I know we went through these areas monsters, but 75 different kinds? I mean, the hobgoblins, the gnolls, the orcs, the bugbears, the trolls, the goblins, the blues, the Tarrasque with man-like intelligence, the 8 men. All these things live over there, plus 9d7 more creatures of these sort of intellects. And there seems to be absolutely no sign at all to do anything other than waylay me when I go through there, which is an area that people don't typically go through. What are they doing typically? What's going on? Where are their wars? Where are their problems? You know, and when you get into the heart of that, you can start sparking up ideas, can't you? Well, yeah, we have ogres, orcs, trolls, bugbears, and gnolls over here. So what would these things be doing? Oh, I know, they'd be fighting each other all the time, and they'd hate each other. And you go, and you'd be like, now look here, man. Now, I might be an adventurer coming through here, and you can look at me. You can see I got credentials. I got a plain mail. You guys don't even have suitable leather armor. I got an ion stone. What does that mean? I'm like more awesome than everyone you've seen in your life put together. And they're like, oh, yeah, clearly. So are they going to want to rush at you and attack you and throw their lives away? No, they're going to be like, all right, look, you don't have a stake in this, but hey, look, you know, we know about this thing. And this, and what do you need to know? And they might lie to you, they might tell you the truth, they might give you half truth, they might supply you with equipment or whatever. the gnolls like, hey, why don't you help us take care of the orcs? Or maybe more realistically, the orcs come to you like, hey, and we live here with psychotic gnolls. All of our alignments have been shifted to lawful good because gnolls are far, far too evil and crazy for us. Help us. And you're like, oh, gnolls, oh, hell yeah, we're going to help you, orcs. And you can form a tag team the likes of which the world has never seen. And that can be a very interesting event when you're like, well, yeah, the gnolls, they like to kidnap and eat our children. You're like, oh, well, sorry about that, orcs. Damn, sorry about that scouting party we killed earlier of yours. Yeah, that's rough, but they're eating your children. Yeah, they just their arms. They eat their arms and their legs, and then they cover the rest of them in ants and watch them flop around, and they make them compete in races covered in ants. It's the most deplorable thing ever, and they laugh. They think it's funny, and you're like, all right, that's enough. There will be no more multi-amputee children racing with ants eating at the flesh. We gotta stop this. And you come together, and you can prove some very heroics there, right in there, right? So now we actually have a reason to have that encounter with the gnolls. We have, I'm being a bit silly there. I'm being a bit hyperbolic, but you take that, change it up, downgrade it a little bit, darken it up a lot, and all of a sudden you have an encounter, with these anthropophagic gnolls that are devouring your orc children. They're devouring the ogre children, but or you could tell even a more horrifying story. All right, watch this. Your party is wandering down this small trail carved out of the dense jungle. There's vines, and a gentle mist rolls along the ground. The sunlight, it's early in its infancy of the day, trickles down from the sky. The atmosphere, pregnant with the moisture, perhaps rain will loom hours ahead. A gentle breeze blows against your face, and you smell a smell of carrion, not uncommon here in the jungle. And there's rustling in the bushes and in the foliage, and there are vines, and there's trees, and you bring all that into them, and you gauge all five senses of the feeling of the wind against them, the brush of vines against the skin, the bark of the trees, the smell of the thorns and brambles that rip at their flesh, that pierce down and find their way under the armor or up into the iron-shod boot, forcing them to pull it out. It's hot, it's humid. They're dousing themselves on the head with water and wiping it with rags that become wet and still must be carried. And you can bring all those sort of ideas in, and all of a sudden, a lone silhouette falls ahead, holding on to one of the branches, and you can see it. It's taller than a man, and twisted, strange posture. And as you cautiously approach, you see a long nose and a face covered in warts, and it's green, and it's slimy, and it has strange tendrils that vaguely look similar to hair, but aren't hair at all when you get closer to it. And the thing has hollow, sunken eyes at pinpoints inside the skull, and its long nose just seems to extend on forever as it sniffs slightly at the air. And as you see it, it's hunched back. It has long, clawed fingers, 3 claws, and an extra joint between each finger. And from the descriptions you've heard, Bard's Tale and sad songs, is a troll. And the troll comes toward you, and in its broken human tongue says, Oran, help, room. And it goes on to explain that his children, or her children, have been taken by the savage gnolls, and the gnolls take her children, and they eat them. But they don't eat all of them. They eat the legs and the hands and the fingers. They've developed a love for troll flesh. And then they feed the children just enough so that they can begin to regenerate. And they start the process all over again. And the gnolls have a witch doctor, which the troll poorly explains. Bad magic. Room. No-go. Hurt grooming brain. Back of mouth. Feel dry. Cannot go. Children eat. And you could build this story up. And you could get the players like, oh, we're all about just tagging up with this troll. far run of the title. And now, all of a sudden, boom, we know where the gnolls are. You can allow the players to prepare tactics. The players love that. Because you can, and before you do that, get that dropping them like 8 times. It's just different stuff. Like, bam, 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 bam. Hitting them at night, hitting them everywhere. Like, they're like, well, fuck. You know, we're getting beat like a drum. Everyone's hitting us. And now they're given the opportunity to be the ones to come in there and to get the drop on them. And, oh, boy, they're going to relish it. Hey, man, give me that. You know, they'll be like, Cleavon, give me the blessings of Talos, the god of awesomeness. And he's like, all right, well, bless you with Talos. And, you know, I mean, who else you going to worship? Clearly, you only worship Talos. Probably the only god left in your world. Probably killed the rest of them. So he's getting the blessings. He's getting the string. You're giving all the time in the world to your wizards, to your clerics. You know, they can get out the poison. They can do X, Y, and Z. Just give them a horde of gnolls, and then they see a man and the troll children over like 3 of them. And at the end, I mean, what do you do? They're freaking trolls. Like, oh, well, I guess we have to give them back to you because God knows, and you know they've been through some horrible things. I mean, trolls are not, spending like a year and a half just having your body eaten over and over again as it regrows. Oh, I mean, that's horror. And the players, particularly if they're good along, like if you have a paladin, he has to do it. He has to do that. How can he not? He's like, oh, well, my God definitely. And like if he protests, if he says something slick about his God, the troll's like, God, like my children in pain. And he's like, oh no, clearly, I guess you got me, troll. With your 6 intelligence, you outwitted me. Damn. And that could tell what hell of a story. Your players remember that. Just right there. Just fucking run that. Take it. Run of your players. They haven't seen the video. You're gonna have one hell of a. That's an entire night of play right there. You could easily pull 6.5 hours out of that one scene. The build up. Boom, 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 boom. Or you could probably hit several games just out of the deal I said because you hit them with the back with all the cowards. You're beating them now. You're letting them go over. You're letting them deal with that with those gnolls. So we're talking about the population. And you want to have encounters like that, but in that area, we don't want all that stuff. We're just one little region. We have gnolls, we have some trolls that live there, and also bugbears live there. Those are your 3 sapient species, if you can even call trolls sapient, borderline. But they live there. We don't need 9 other species living in that one little area that have been shunted off. No, it's too much. It's too overpopulated. So you have to have a lot of these areas where people don't go. Because the hobgoblins had to have their area, right? The orcs have to have their area. The goblins have to have their area. The unicorn men with swoosh swords, they have to have their area. God knows they're crazy as fuck. They are so good they will kill you, so you don't want to get near them. They are insanely crazy. They make gnolls look like just wonderfully mentally balanced people. So you've told the whole story there. You've got an ecology. You got those 3 there, and then you're thinking, okay, well, what animals are we going to put there? So you populate with animals. Okay, what other things? Maybe you want to put some owl bears there. Maybe you want to put this, and maybe you want to have one thing that's just creeping in. You're like, oh well. And also, by the way, cockatrices are coming in this area, and like that's making everyone else very unhappy. And you could tell, the whole turmoil there. They're afraid, and they don't know what a cockatrice is. They're like, oh, stone. That's pretty terrifying when you go to attack something to eat it, and it turns everyone to stone except the one dude that runs off and tells the story. He goes back and says, look, the stone statues. They're like, oh, that's a terrifying monster to bring in. And you can bring that in when you're talking about the population. If everything's already there, boom, done, and you haven't put thought into it, it doesn't mean anything. But get that value out of it when you inject a new thing. Get the value out about how the players disturb the ecology. You go through and you hack all those gnolls to pieces. Well, maybe you come back and all of a sudden you can see there's a larger bugbear population because maybe those bugbears have brought 3 other clans of bugbears and oh, that's a safe area. Let's all come in. And maybe that starts tribal warfare between the bugbears. Maybe the troll tries to get you back. Maybe you could do so many different things once you begin to think about what there is. Remember, less is more, right? I just said we have 3 types of monsters. We have like 5 monsters in this area. Like 2, like an owl bear and a cockatrice and whatever. And then you have a gnoll. You have a small population of trolls, and you have bugbears. And that's it. That's all you have there. That's more than enough. And it makes sense. Maybe you throw some giant spiders into it, and then you are done. I mean, that is it. You can't have just scags of monsters everywhere. Because, it creates too many problems. First of all, you have to have a sustainable population. You have to have a sustainable prey base, and if certain types of monsters are eating all the rest of them, they just aren't going to be there anymore. So, you know, you can tell that story like, okay, you find the last giant spiders, or you find like the last trolls because they've been beaten out by whatever, or it's like they're like 8 more hill giants, and they're like, I mean, they're still chaotic evil hill giants. Like, oh, they might come at you, Great Khali style. You don't know, but you might be able to deal with them in a whole other way now because they're like, yeah, well, these orcs have pushed us to the brink of extinction. He's not gonna put it that way. Oh, put him like that, and then chop you in the head, and you might fight him at first, and then you can work it into the combat where the players start figuring out certain things, and they're like, oh, and you can put sympathy on the giants. And a good player, as soon as you start putting the sympathy on the giants, you go, oh, wait a minute, maybe I'm the dick here. Oh, wait a minute, I need to back up and reevaluate, figure out what's going on. Let me take that clue and figure out how you do it. And the character who's a dick, who's manipulative, so he might step back and go, wait a minute, how can I use this to my advantage? So that's another important thing to think about when you're looking at something like an encounter like that. And we're like Forgotten Realms, I find this is a great example. I know Forgotten Realms well, and this is one of its Forgotten Realms. I like a lot of things about Forgotten Realms, but it has a tremendous amount of major failings. A lot of what I learned about world building, I learned from Forgotten Realms in terms of what it did wrong. I'm like, okay, all right. So I'd rather learn from the mistakes of others than make mistakes myself. But when you have a tremendous amount of monsters in the world, that's almost settled. Like Forgotten Realms is so much of it is settled. When I look through there, there's so much that's dominated by humans, and then to a lesser extent, elves and dwarves and gnomes and halflings. You got half elves in there, half orcs are trying to get a pay window. That's a lot of different species. That's a lot of individuals out there. And then when you go, okay, well, you're in Interrock Desert, you have, this little part of you got Sothilus down here, you have some lizardmen and maybe some dinosaurs up in Chult. You have, some frozen things way up here at the end of the world where no one's finna go anywhere. And, you have maybe a little bit over here in the deserts of Mulhorande, or over down here in Kalasham, some Afrits or whatever. In fact, I think they're even there. But you start looking at it, you're like, wow, man, like monsters don't need to be killed. Like, you need to get some people out there preserving them. You're like, and there are only 18 owl bears left in the world. Sally starts like, oh, kill the owl bears, you dirty son of a bitch. And, you could legitimately have a group like that, a group of lower powerful wizards that are kind of, your animal rights sort of activists. And depending on your group, you're like, I will kill the owl bears. How about that? And you like press slam the wizards, and they're fighting you. So the wizards don't want you killing these monsters. Yeah, they're dangerous. Yeah, they're poisonous. Yeah, they turn you to stone or eat your kids or whatever. But they are almost extinct, and we need them. Maybe the wizards do legitimately need them for a real purpose. It's like, oh yes, but goblin tears are what we crave. Gotta have some more goblin tears. They're an extremely important elixir to this, and almost all the goblins are killed. People just be killing them off left and right. So how are we going to, how are we going to remedy that? So you're like, oh, and it creates a problem. Particularly if you don't, like, if it's not like 20th level wizards, if it's like a pretty big cabal of like, first to like maybe like you cap it like an 8th level wizard. And you got like, an established amount. There's 23 of them. They're not all there. So the players have a chance, they could beat them. They can, they could pummel them. And, fight the goblins, or they could come with them. Oh, I see your point. And maybe even had launched earlier when the goblins attacked and beat one of them savagely, or hurt one of them, or kill one of them, or kill the NPC that's associated with them, or whatever. And then you got mileage off that. So consider your populations. Consider your populations of monsters, of animals, and consider your ecology. If you don't do that, you're going to present a game where the player's like, well, yeah, but I realize it doesn't matter how many lizardmen I kill, I'm not going to affect their population. I'm not going to do anything to them. Or have a game where a player, you get some character that really hates another species, right? You get like, maybe he's like a ranger / necromancer, and he's like, I'm a ranger necromancer for no apparent reason. And he's going after all these lizardmen, and he's like, he hates lizardmen. Lizardmen did him wrong. Lizardmen took his dad's gerb, and his dad needed that gerb. So he's out for lizardmen, because lizardmen got all the gerbs. And he's like, man, fuck you green ass motherfuckers. And he's just killing them, because he's going to all the places where the lizardmen are. And then you're like, all right. And he's like, we'll go find some more lizardmen. And he finds out that he's killed all the lizardmen. Or, there's only a small amount left. You could come to bring a protection angle, then where people are trying to get at him, or or whatever. So when you contemplate that and you give players a detail like that, they'll respect your game like forever, like way more. Like, oh, what I did actually meant something. It mattered. It affected things in some way. The fact that I killed 9,000 lizardmen with my fireballs, like running through their village, just chucking fireballs in the night. They're like, oh, you know. And again, I'm being silly here to illustrate a point, but hopefully the point is made well upon your nugget that it's important to pay attention to that level of detail and bring those sort of things in your game. Think about, your whole population. Think about how many sapient creatures your world can sustain. Think about how large it is. What's the size? You don't have to think about it in miles or kilometers or anything like that. Just think about it like, all right, so we have the Earth, right? And is it half the size of the Earth? Is it twice the size of the Earth? Is it a third the size of the Earth? Is it 2/3 the size of the Earth? What is it? And then you get that down. You go, okay, what's the landmass distribution in that percentage compared to the percentage of Earth? Okay, it's more or it's less, and let's affect it that way. You know, we can make additional allowances for aquatic species, for underground species, but overall, we really need to look at the surface. And you get even then, aquatic species and underground species are still going to be creating pollution. They're still going to be leaving a carbon footprint in a lot of different ways on the game, so you need to bring that into account to some degree. They're going to be using resources. They're going to be using silver and gold and iron and copper. And is there more of that in your world? Maybe there is. And if how much of it is there? Is gold everywhere? Is gold worthless? It's like, oh, well, that's gold. But yes, but that's gold. What are you, stupid? We want granite. Oh, our coins of granite. Ha ha. Yes, granite is wonderful for all things. Gold sucks. I'm not built with gold. I want granite. Man, what's wrong with you? Nobody granite. Or it's iron. Or whatever the commodity is. That'd be an interesting world of gold. Gold Maya. Whatever you want to call it, Then you start changing things like that. You got to look at the population. If you take Forgotten Realms and you give it, say, 1/2 of what the normal population would be of people, which it seems to have at least, to be very kind, about 1/2 of that population of humans, of elves, of dwarves, of gnomes, of halflings, of half elves, of a quarter CLs, and whatever. And then you start looking at the other side. You're like, oh, okay, where am I going to put all of these things? What you want to do, first of all, is cut back. You go, okay, well, these things are, the bad guys, whatever. And you want to give them cultures, you want to give them societies, you want to give them an ethos to follow, and say, okay, well, and once you start doing all that, you're like, oh, and now I guess hobgoblins are playable because we understand that we're looking from their point of view, And just like Star Wars, or Star Trek, initially they were like, oh, Klingons, and they like looked at the Klingons' point of view and like, all right, so we'll have a Klingon player character in this piece, I guess, So, you could do that, and then you start populating the world. But what you don't want is like a billion types of giants. Just a few. You can't have very many because they create a problem. Giants are huge, and when you have, you don't have to have all the standards. Well, there's no fire giants here, and there's no storm giants, and there's no hill giants, but we do have frost giants, and we also have cloud giants, and we also have fog giants, and we also have Fomorians, and we also have Furbolg, and we also have any of the other many desert giants, island giants. What are the water giants called? I don't know, but there's tons of giants. You wouldn't want to have a world populated with all of them. Giants can be a big problem because they use up a lot of resources and they use up a lot of space. So where are they? Where are those giant populations? That has to be accounted for. That's one of the biggest problems I always look when I look at giants. I'm like, I solved it very well. Let's look at your names. You're gonna like that, but they're a big problem. Dragons. How many types of dragons are we going to have? We're going to have 4,000 types of dragons. How do these dragons breed? What the hell are they breeding with? Well, we have deep dragons, and we have gym dragons, we have sonic dragons, and we have the Lagorum, and we have the red dragon and the gold dragon, and you go through Forgotten Realms, you go through these different settings, and the number of dragons is astronomical. Where are all these dragons living, dude? I mean, you would be looking up and just seeing dragons just all over the place, all the time, constantly dragons. You'd be like bumping into them at the yield haberdasher. Get your ass out of the way, dragon. Oh, sorry. You just rock off on him, Think of a damn about a dragon. That'd be commonplace. People wouldn't even want to wear a dragon. They'd be like, oh, dragon scales was like 2,000 years ago, man. I ain't trying to wear that nonsense. People walking around looking like fools wearing dragon armor. Be like, ah, you wear dragon armor, can't afford granite, can you? Peasant. You're like, I'm sorry, you throw him right in the muck. All right, I'm just tired. It's late, I'm tired, a little bit fun. But yeah, that's always a great scene. A thoroughfare, the main thoroughfare, grab somebody just to the muck with you, and they're in the horse droppings, and they're in the mud, and they're all disheveled, and now their status has been befriended. Always a great move, particularly if you're a barbarian and someone has offended you with their civilized tactics, and then they're all covered in mud and horse feces and urine and optolang dung or whatever it is. To the thoroughfare is a good move for you. So when you're looking at those populations, you got to make it make sense. You got to limit the amount of monsters you're using. You don't need a monster manual full of monsters for your game. You don't. You shouldn't need very many. And if you need like 300 monsters in your game, if you need 200, if you need 100 monsters in the entire scope of the game you're running, there's probably a problem there that is resulting from being lazy or a lack of creativity, so forth. It shouldn't just be fighting or whatever the monsters. You could get, if you have a goblin, right? You can still get that goblin over at second level, at third level, fourth level, fifth level. It doesn't just have to be more. You can add classes. You can say, oh, well, this goblin has some infernal blood in it, and it's a horrible, filthy little creature. Or, you can use these things in a lot of ways, and you should be able to get your mileage out of them. If you're thinking logically about the ecology, it gives you so much more to work with. You're thinking about what do they eat, the foods, how are they having a problem? The goblins and the kobolds and the orcs, they might have this huge problem. Again, you can start a party in there, and then they're coming to you. Like, look, man, the kobolds are eating all this kind of food. Or the kobolds, look, dude, the kobolds breed rats. The orcs like, that's disgusting. Rats offend Grunch. Grunch doesn't even get down with rats. Doesn't want rats are like biting our kids, and now like plague is breaking out because the kobolds had to breed rats because they want to eat rats. And like, you got to get rid of them, man. Like, we're orcs and we're too big to get down. Maybe your party is a group of gnomes and halflings, and they live out in a village or whatever nonsense they would live in. And the orcs are like, now look here, man, we're orcs, look at us. And they show you, they say, look at the shape. And you're like, oh, you cower before the might of the orcs because you are a halfling. And they say, look, man. And the halflings are trying to give you all their stuff. Like, please don't beat us. That one orc, don't beat the 900 of us because he can. But they say, look, we just need your help. We want to hire you. And you're like, well, you're giant orcs with huge axes. And they're like, well, yes. But the kobolds live down in these goddamn little tunnels, and we can't get them. And they keep breeding these rats. And maybe the kobolds are all malicious. They're like, ha-ha, using plague on you. So the orcs are up there, and they're making a deal with you. I'm giving you another great plot line. The orcs are coming out. You're playing a village full of halflings and gnomes. Right? The gnomes have been pushed out in the mountains long ago by the kobolds, by the goblins, so they hate them anyway. And they're like, orcs, oh, we're scared of orcs, but we don't really have historical beef with them so much. Maybe this a few things happen, but not like goblins and kobolds. Or maybe it's just kobolds. It's kobolds, orcs, halflings, gnomes. Boom, boom, boom. That's it. That's all we got. And we're working with that. They come up there, they're like, look, man, these kobolds are in the cave. We need you to get... And how much... That's one of the fucking oldest, tritest cliches in Dungeons & Dragons. There's kobolds down in the mine. Well, change their minds, make the kobolds home deal. And the orcs are coming up and asking them. And you have this scary scene at first when they're sitting there and put it over on them like, okay, you're 3 fucking foot tall, you little peck. This orc is fucking 6'11", and he's got fucking 26-inch biceps, and he would crush you with just a thought. And there's no way you could look at the size. His axe is larger than your house. It's larger than your fucking house. What do you think you're gonna do to him? And they're like, oh, yeah, well, I don't know. So scare him and get him. You don't want him like, oh, I start throwing stone. You're like, oh god, man, how are we getting new players? So you build that tension. And the orc walks up. Half man, I want. And they're like, oh, and just linger, let it stir, and let them be kind of like start thinking about going, oh, maybe I get that sling now. And you go, to hire you. And they're like, what? They never expect this big orc. And he's got the other orcs in the background with spears and with like crazy fucking wargs or whatever the hell, lizards. They'd be riding something awesome and badass. And you put that over. You even make it crazy or fucking half a devil or whatever, And sure, like the orc shaman, and like she's some pretty badass, intimidating looking dudes where they're like, okay, there's no way our village are gonna fight them. Oh, we're gonna have to give them all our all. They're gonna eat all of us. We'll just lay down and eat them. And instead, they're paying them, and they pay them in whatever. It might be. It's probably not gonna be gold coins. Don't be something stupid like that. Maybe it's some raw silver, some silver ore. Maybe they have some old, X, Y, or Z. They've found something that's like an old relic of the gnomes that used to live there. They went into their joint and found some things, or they killed some kobolds and they found some stuff. And they're like, we think this is gnomish. And they're like, looking at it like, well, I got a big nose. And the orcs are just starting like, oh, this may be a bad idea. We're just gonna leave. So it gives you a deal right there, right? Where you're taking something so old and so trite and so cliche, and you're making it completely fresh. The orcs who are badass, who are terrifying, have just come up and they're putting you over. They're like, well, yeah, but we can't get in there. But the passages are kobold sized, but we look at you and we know you're kobold sized. And we have scrying the runes and grumshes presumed upon us that we shall entreat you to bring an end to this foul menace that has vexed us. And then you're like, oh. So right there, you have a good plot. You have something that's working. We can rock and roll with that. And they can go in there and they can fight the kobolds. And just as you're about to be done in, you're like, oh, and you fight back and you get to go to where the orcs are. Maybe group shamans are like happy to heal you. They're happy to give you some orc delicacies, and you can see how they live, and you can see their delicacies, and bing, bang, boom. And then you have this party, right, of halflings, of gnomes. You got 6 players. You got 3 of each. Then you do the deal with the orcs. You finally beat them off. That didn't come out. I meant it to. But you finally defeat the kobolds, and you come back. You've menaced them, and you come back. You put it into their rat population or whatever sort of strange things are breeding there, and you see maybe some really horrible demonic stuff that they're doing. Like, oh, so they were really evil, and so the orcs don't seem as evil. They seem more menacing, but not as evil in comparison to the demonic draconic stuff that the kobolds are doing. And that demonic draconic stuff creates an entire deal with the orcs are like, well, they were going to do these things to you, and now the orcs are mad. So maybe in the deal, you lose one of the players, and his character's dead, and you're like, oh, but guess what? And you say to the player, he's like, oh, my character got killed, and he's like, well, what's good now? You don't have to be a gnome no more, son. You can be an orc in it. And he's like, dang, yo, because you put the orcs over so much. Now he's playing an orc. You have an orc with 2 gnomes and 3 halflings. You're like, well, how would you make that party? Boom, we just made it make all kinds of sense. And they're like, we need to go through this portal and stop X, Y, and Z that's happening. We see what's happening now. They've got some more magic items, some more spells. Because kobolds love spells, and and you had an orc in your party, and the orc's got some badass orc stuff. And all of a sudden, we made it make work, and we could change those elements out, and do that a lot of different ways. But right then, we made a party that works. We've made a populated area of monsters that works, and then that means way over here now we have the elves, and over here we have the dwarves, and over here we have the hobgoblins, and over here, we're going to use these things and take some common stuff out. You don't need to have a village of Tarrasque with man-like intelligence. I know most games you play and have villages full of Tarrasque with man-like intelligence, but you don't have to have that in your game. You don't have to have X, Y, or Z. You can do something different. Like, okay, I really like the sonic blue goblins, so that's what my goblins are. They're just that. Or I don't want any goblins in my game, including hobgoblins or goblins. It's just bugbears. Let's put bugbears on a pedestal. Again, less is more, because now the bugbears mean something. They really mean a lot. You're like, oh, the bugbear kingdom. Yes, we're very terrified of them. They like to eat us, and so, we're building the deal up. We've spotlighted the orc culture. We've shown the culture of the gnomes, of the halflings, and we now bring them in, plunging them into this mystical well. And the orc is all superstitious, and the halfling is, you got like a halfling, a wizard there, like Willow, and he's like, he's doing his deal and directing everybody, showing them how it works. He's got all these new scrolls. And the orc is like, he doesn't really trust them, but at the same time, he does, and his village is grateful to him. So when somebody comes and messes with them later, like, oh, you little peck, he's like, gross. And then that's badass, and the players that aren't him are down with him. They're down with him like a motherfucker, because then you gotta flip the script and have some people come and fuck with the little guys, and the big orc comes in and saves the day. Because remember, they've just saved the day on the orc. So now we're building up a deal, and then you bring it back. By the time you're done with the game, you bring it back, and you can establish harmony in that area. Like the orcs are like, well, yeah, I mean, those are gnomes, and maybe the gnomes begin to move back into their ancient home, and the orcs are down with them. They're like, oh, hello, gnomes. And then you can bring it back, right, in your next game when they're playing X, Y, and Z, and they go up there, the dwarves are trying to trade with the new gnomes. They're like, oh, there are orcs here. And the gnomes are like, oh, hell no, you better not fight them orcs. Those are our homeboys. We're going to fuck your ass up, dwarves. Like, what do you mean? What I mean is katoon. Alchemical crossbow bolt to the nugget. Snugget. So, you're starting to populate the campaign world out. We build each city, we play different campaigns, and then we start building up we put these elements in there, and then we play the game to really sort of determine what's going on with them. We don't have that kobold population anymore, but maybe there's, they've gone to others. And maybe that campaign wipes kobolds almost completely to extinction, and then the remaining kobolds go, and they're with the elves, and they're like, oh, well, we're wizards, and you're wizards, and they be trying to jack us, and we have the blood of dragons, and this nobility, and this plan. This plan actually was going to help you, and they're like, oh, yeah, that plan would have helped us, right? Because it could have. It was no chicanery. Their plan might have actually really helped the elves. It screwed over the orcs. It screwed over the halflings. It screwed over the gnomes. So now we're starting to build battle lines, and it's a whole different deal. And it all makes sense. It's all built to something. And you have that campaign where like my kobolds and elves. You might play a group of kobolds and elves. You might have a group of dwarves and humans. You might have a group of gnomes, halflings, and orcs, and they're down. You understand? So when you can bring that around, you can make a campaign world that really pops. That people are like, oh, I want to play that again. You understand? That's what you want to do. And you can really achieve that, again, by creating ecology. It wasn't, well, there's kobolds in the cave, so let's go kill them. And then when we get to be 3rd level, we'll go fight the orcs. No. Same exact scenario, approached a completely different way, brings forth an interesting, entertaining game. With the only real difference, we've actually examined the ecology. We've actually examined what has happened and why it's affecting them. Why would the orcs care about the people that live way out there beyond their caverns? You're caring about the people that are competing with them for food, and so with the kobolds. And the kobolds are afraid of the orcs. They're 7 foot tall, and they got giant, scary-looking weapons. And kobolds are like 3 foot tall at the tops. So, you build a whole deal there. Of course, you can go the other way. I've just thrown out those sort of ideas. When you're thinking about what's going on, when you're thinking about what you've put there and how you're going to build it into a more believable canopy to support your stories, then you're going to have stories. You're going to have excellent stories, and not just random encounters and set encounters and a video game style play. You're going to have a world that's living and breathing and feeling and is affected by your actions of your players. And I did love that. Just what I was described there. If someone hit me with that, I was playing. I was like, oh yeah. Now I'm this big orc, and with my warhammer or whatever. I think you can really produce one hell of a game there. And again, you can bring it back, and then you show how they're getting along. And the player, like the player orc, goes there and like, oh, what do you really think about these halflings? Oh, well, they're brave warriors. They're little, and I could crush them with one hand, but they keep fighting as best they can. They know magic. We don't really know that much magic, or afraid of it. But the halflings aren't, and they respect that, and they see how it's been used. So you can really bring across a game that is entertaining, is interesting, is believable. Key when you think about ecology. Ecology is like the first thing you need to think about. You can't just have like a random cloud giant. And there is one cloud giant here, and there were 3 frost giants. No, you need to have populations. Populations must be sustained. Sustain your populations. Sustain your belief from your players.